Hi guys, we are here to teach you how to grow an edible garden anywhere, be it a rooftop or a planter or a farmland or even a small balcony. We're here to show you that it's possible to grow food just about anywhere in a very simple way.
All you got to do is observe and interact with your environment, mimic the patterns and magic of nature and its natural flow of energy, and just bring that back onto your farm or your kitchen garden or your small planter, and that's it. You got to get creative on the land, and here are 9 tips from us to guide you to get you well on your way.
We have to stop this war with nature. Ever since the introduction of pesticides, synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, and the overuse of fossil fuel, we've plowed our soil too deep, releasing millions of years of accumulated organic biology back into the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. It has resulted in saturated agricultural yields, degenerated soil, and the nutritional quality of our food is highly questionable.
As a regenerative farmer grower, we need to rediscover how to work with nature to discern the true potential of our soil and our crop plants without any invasive external inputs. That's important. Now, there are many ways to do that, but where best to begin than by drawing inspiration from our own tried and tested indigenous traditional practices. The ancient regenerative properties of diverse cropping, crop rotation systems, also isolating old forest microbes and reintroducing them into our gardens, and more recently, building biologically active soils with home composting that actually feeds the soil life in the most simple way are a few of the things you can do.
If you have the resources and space, you can have a wide variety of composting systems all over like we do here at Petrichor. We demonstrate anaerobic pile composts, trench composts, worm towers, IMOs, biochar, and so on. But our favorite is this cute on-site composting unit that we swear by that is perfect for any kind of garden because it can be fitted right into your bed or pot and can also be moved around. We like it even more because you don't have to buy any external composting units. Use what you have has always been our mantra.
Now take an old bin that has an airtight lid. Cut out the bottom part and fix it a couple of inches deep into your bed. Throw in some carbon, that's dry matter, as the first layer and your kitchen greens next, followed by some garden soil, and then again cover with dry matter. We use straw, but you can use other brown matter that you have at hand. Place the lid back until next time when you repeat the layers. Now when your compost is ready, you can just pull the container out so that the lovely rich organic matter just comes out through the bottom. Spread that evenly on the patch and take the same container to another part of your garden that you think might need a little boost and start composting again.
Use citrus and onions sparingly, since too much citrus creates a very acidic environment which worms don't like, so they won't visit your compost as much as you'd like them to. As for onions and other strong-smelling vegetables, they take longer to decompose than others. So you might find bits and pieces of them still remaining in your otherwise perfect matter. What we do is we compost them separately in our trench pits.
The other design principle we have applied on a farm is perennializing a landscape. We produce crops of all durations, which means there's always food to eat throughout the year. Short duration crops are our annuals and seasonal vegetables as well. There's mid-duration crops like bananas, cassava, papayas, and then the long duration perennials like jackfruit, mango, lychee, aloe vera, avocados in subtropics and tropics like ours.
They can be tree crops, shrubs, or even perennials, like Siddharth mentioned. Everything has a purpose. It pretty much ensures a garden that takes care of itself, producing food and medicine on the go for you, that is always going to be around. They don't need much attention or care either, and is an important part of the do-nothing gardening method that is the crux of permaculture.
It's the smaller version of the permaculture food forest concept that you need to bring to a small scale home garden or even a small space like a square foot planter. The method is to plant a combination of 3 or more plants that mutually benefit each other that also mirror the qualities of an ecosystem. Now, at its very core, interplanting or companion planting is about beneficial relationships between plants and, of course, the soil. The key is knowing which relationships work and which don't.
Besides providing nutrition and aid to each other, this method is the best pest control system you can ever find in any store. Because in this way, you're creating habitat for all living beings that play the key roles in a thriving ecosystem. From microorganisms to bees, bugs, butterflies, birds, they'll all find their place in there and each have their own predators as well in their life cycle. So there's really nothing for us to do. As humans who garden or farm or grow food, we really actually have to do nothing. We just step back and let nature do its thing. A typical permaculture guild has 9 layers, but it doesn't matter. Do what you can with where you are, and again, use what would grow in your environment. Make sure that there's a mix of at least 3 or 4 plants.
What you gotta do here is try to think outside the box while planting vegetables. And the important part is to bring in support plants. Support plants that have multiple benefits and, of course, is natural to your environment. To give you a couple of examples of our favorite permaculture plants that have always been serving us and the land well is bamboo, in our case. Firstly, it's beautiful to look at and lends a peaceful, almost zen-like aesthetic to your surroundings. Its leaves are also medicinal and also makes good mulch. Some of our species have delicious edible shoots, locally called tama, provide shade. It's also a great windbreaker and you can plant it as a screen against harsh winds. It also yields a great amount of biomass. We use activated bamboo biochar in our compost and also in our skincare products. And the most important thing is that we use bamboo to build almost everything.
Another example is the moringa tree. It's a nitrogen fixer. It's edible, medicinal, grows very fast, and also aids in water conservation too, as it's really drought resistant and so on. It has multiple benefits. So what we'd encourage you to do is find these multifunctional plants of your area and plant them. Again, it can be trees, it can be flowering plants, shrubs, and even what one might call weeds, like purslane or Artemis vulgaris, titipate. And if you have animals on the farm, pigeon pea is a great example for all its various benefits to us humans. And it's also nutritious fodder for your cows, goats, and chickens.
Some of our annual vegetables like pumpkin, dill, rice and sword bean, and more recently our cherry tomatoes are actually plants that have self-seeded. If you try staying away from hybrids and invest in open pollinated or heirloom seeds, this is what will happen over time. And each year, these vegetables will come back better and tastier because they have naturalized to our local climate and soil. And you don't have to do anything at all. Every year, there they are, doing their own thing, emerging from the soil, waiting for you to use them.
And we also rely on these plants as indicators that give us a gentle nudge towards the timeline and the season forward for other plants that we should put in. For example, if we see our pumpkin sapling emerging, then we know it's time for its extended squash family members and also like other gourds to go in. It's so simple and low maintenance, nature tells you everything. Also, go ahead and save those seeds for further use or for your seed bank to share with your community, family members, friends. This is the actual inheritance that we should preserve, and this is the heritage that we should be proud of.
Like our vegetables, we also have perennial flowers everywhere. Bougainvillea, hibiscus, rose, wild lilies, scotch broom, wild sunflowers, and our marigold have also adapted to self-seed themselves. These flowers are landing pads for bees and butterflies, and that's what encourages pollination. We use most of them in our skincare products, herbal tonics, teas. These are mainly during Shweta's herbalism workshops, and also as salads and decor.
Every year, despite the season, there's always something blooming around us. Again, not much of an effort is required, unlike seasonal flowers, and the benefits are, of course, immense. We forgot to mention up there, but these flowers also make beautiful natural pigments for our earthen walls during natural building workshops, and of course for our own homes here and for our fabrics. Yep.
So what we need to do here is we need to map our gardens and our crop seasons to establish a succession planting schedule. This is another method to increase food availability in a particular growing season. It's also a great addition to your interplanting strategy. Space out plantings of the same vegetable every 2 to 4 weeks. Many of these vegetables fade after producing their initial crop, setting a heavy yield initially, then smaller and smaller yields throughout the rest of the season. So rather than planting your entire row of beans all at once, what you can do is you can plant part of the row at the beginning of the season and then plant more in about, say, 2 to 4 weeks. That way, a new crop will be continually coming in. As the first plants start to flag, you can start replanting that area with beans or maybe even use it for a different crop.
We also encourage you to eat from your garden daily, even if it's just a few coriander leaves or a tomato here and a salad leaf there. This simple act keeps you connected to your landscape and initiates a rhythm that you'll enjoy immensely. I speak from experience here. Your crops will also love you for it. It also saves you a huge amount of money if you commit to eating from your garden every day. During this lockdown, you see, we did not buy a single vegetable from the market because our garden and forest provided us with all the nourishment we needed. Even if we can't be fully self-sufficient, we can make an effort towards a shift, just a slight shift from being mindless consumers to responsible producers. And the positive changes that follow are beyond anything else, We understand it's not possible for all of you to do that, but you can at least plant some staples and begin eating from it. Learn how to create simple dishes from it, involve your kids and elders during these harvest meal times. These are the best connections, the connections that are made through food will definitely last you a lifetime.
And after all the abundant food you've grown, eaten, shared, and even sold, there will always be some surplus left over. This is where curing, storage, and preservation comes in. Your staples like potatoes, onions, garlic and ginger, these can be dried to cure and kept in cold storage. Try finding a spot in your house to do so. Things like garlic, corn, and even onions can be hung to store. Cassava roots, millet, or buckwheat, these can be dried and milled, into nutritious gluten-free flours that can be consumed all year long. Now, annuals can be fermented and preserved as kimchi, sauerkraut, and more locally gundruk and kinema. These are probiotics, and just as microorganisms are activated for your soil health, these microorganisms are really fabulous for your immune gut health as well.
So this is the end of our video, and thank you so much for staying with us right until the end, those of you who did. We're all faced with a very difficult situation, and when faced with such a situation, when we don't know which way to go, negativity and uncertainty are obvious byproducts. It is natural to be overwhelmed, confused, depressed, and all of that. We've all been there, and it's okay to take as long as we need to get out of it. And while those emotions have their rightful place and reason, the next step would be to also accept that change and to creatively respond to it. Because we all know that change is the only constant in our lives. And there's nowhere else we can go, nothing else we can do but to make peace with it. So let's ask ourselves, what would I do in response to a difficult situation? And let's make sure that that response is a positive response. And that can mean different things for different people. We are aware. Some of us may go further down the spiritual path. Some of us may make positive changes to lifestyles and behavior. Some of us might just learn to start growing food, or all of the above. But whatever it is, from a personal standpoint or community-based, let's make sure that our response to any difficult situation comes from a holistic, wholesome place, because that makes all the difference.